Welcome to the Film Board, the movie conversation podcast reviewing the latest releases that you've seen and want to talk about. I am your host, Ocean, and today I'm being joined by the wonderful, vivacious, and humorous host of the most excellent 80s podcast, Krissy Lenz. Hello, Krissy.
Hi! Hello! To infinity and beyond, my friend.
Yes, and as you can tell by that wonderful catchphrase, today on this episode, we are going to talk about Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear mission log, stardate 3901. After a full year of being marooned, our first hyperspeed test flight is a go.
Who are you talking to?
No one.
You were narrating again.
I was not. Just doing the mission log.
You do know no one ever listens to those.
I know that. Narrating helps me focus.
Ready, Captain Lightyear?
Ready as I'll ever be, Commander Hawthorne.
This is exciting. A new adventure.
I'm gonna grant you 4 minutes to be off planet, but then you come right back to us. To infinity
and beyond.
You are clear for hyperlaunch. Beep boop, beep boop, beep boop. Buzz, that was utterly terrifying, and I regret having joined you.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. Come in, Star Command. Why don't they answer? Hey! Shh!
The robots.
The what? What is happening right now? Alicia?
Oh no, that's my grandmother.
But, Socks, how long were we gone?
Meow, 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 meow. 62 years, 7 months, and 5 days.
What?
I hope you're ready for action, because all we needed was a pilot
For what?
to destroy the alien ship. I have a plan and I have a team. Darby can take any 3 things and make them explode.
I do this, and they shave a little time off my sentence.
Okay. And what about you?
Well, I thought this was going to be like a fun boot camp workout thing. But it is not. Did I get it?
Pretty close!
I need the... You know what's saying? The harpoons?
Buzz Lightyear!
The probability of survival with an inexperienced crew is 38.2%.
Seems a bit low.
Mission failure imminent. In 3. Grandma always said she believed in you. 2. 1.
There was a big swirly too. Oh, I think I need a bag.
No.
Please record your last words.
Do not vomit inside the vehicle. Do not vomit inside the vehicle.
If you are satisfied with this recording, speak or select 1.
To infinity.
Are you trying to get me to pull your finger?
Don't fall for it.
No, not like that. Sorry, it's a thing your grandma and I used to do.
Yeah.
Why don't we just set the bar of what we initially thought of think about this movie? So Krissy, without really going into anything too much detail about it, what did you already know about this movie, and what were your expectations of it going in?
I didn't know very much about it. Other than just it was called Lightyear. It was a Toy Story product. I had watched with my kids because they're like just at the right age that they watched Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, the
television spinoff
cartoon when it was in like reruns and stuff. So I figured it was like something along those lines. And I think my expectations of everything Pixar is incredibly high. Yeah. I expect them to give me a good product.
Yeah, yes, they usually do that, and so
they do. So they have a real knack for making movies.
They do,
guys.
yeah. It turns out they're not half bad. They're victims of their own success. Yeah. So I liked. I found that for me coming in, I liked the Toy Story movie when I saw it with my kids. I didn't see it at the time it came out, though, because I at the time I did not have kids and I was in college and not watching kids movies at all. But I thought when I did see it, I thought it was great. It was imaginative. It was fun, and so what I was expecting or hoping from this movie was that it would be like Buzz Lightyear in a galactic space battle. Full of action and all the bravado that is Buzz Lightyear, and kind of showing why he's the best space ranger in the galaxy. So that's what I was hoping for when I saw this, when I was going to watch this movie, and we'll see if I got that. So yeah, okay. So I guess just giving a quick synopsis of the movie, at least where it starts off, is that Buzz Lightyear is a space ranger in Star Command, and his commanding officer and best friend Alicia Hawthorne are exploring. They're in a mission on a ship going somewhere to explore somewhere, but then they noticed during that there's a habitable planet called Takani Prime, and they then divert the mission over there to the new route. And so they, along with their new recruit, I wrote this down, Featheringham, at least that's how
Featheringham.
Featheringham, at least that's how I'm pronouncing it. They go out to explore the planet. And so what happens is they then discover that this planet has hostile life forms that are trying to suck them down or eat them or kill them, and then they're going to get off. And so they're running back to the main ship, which is being dragged down. They then, to have a harrowing escape, they try to get away from it, and in the process, Buzz damages the hyperspace drive. At least the hyperspeed drive. Sorry, the hyperspeed drive. And then forcing the ship to crash on the planet, and the crew has to be woken up, and then they're forced to evacuate, and then they're going to begin repairs to try to get back to wherever home is. Because I assume they're humans in this Earth, but they don't really state that. So like where they're
also. Like they were on an extended mission. Clearly, if people are in cryo sleep,
yes, exactly, yeah. So I'm not really sure.
I could have used some clarity on that.
I agree. I'm not really exactly sure where they were going to or coming from, but that was that was what they were doing. So the first part of the movie is a bit of a, kind of a bit of a talking about, trying to get Buzz's impressions of really he seems to hate rookies and autopilots. Right. And this is, and this is what we're learning from him initially. And then also showing the bit of his cockiness of trying to then get the ship out when he really was clearly not going to make it. And so,
which was exactly this. It was exactly Top Gun, right? It was that same thing. He was trying to pop up over a mountain.
Yes, it was. But he didn't.
And he didn't make it.
He didn't make it. He didn't have landing gear to take the brunt of the brunt of the contact. Exactly, to take the brunt of the contact. Yeah. So, that was. I guess that was interesting. Set up, and then it cuts to. So now the movie then jumps to 1 year later, and they've created a nascent colony, and they're ready to test a plane with a hyperspace fuel. And Buzz makes one jump, and after his test fails, and he gets back to Takani Prime, and he finds out that 4 years have passed because he experienced the effects of time dilation. So, I guess what did you think of this? I enjoyed the scene of him fixing the problem during the hyperspace test because it showed that he wasn't just a dumb flyboy, right? Because he had to do complex math with some chalk on his window to figure out the problem so he could then adjust the ship over. But I was curious about what was your thoughts? Because I had some strange thoughts about when they introduced the idea of time dilation into this movie.
Yeah, I thought first of all, I love the scene that you're talking about where he does the math. He has set up for us. Oh, only he can do it, right? That's why he hates rookies. That's why he won't let the autopilot do the math. He's like an absolute, it has to be me. Very much like Maverick, right? Lots of Top Gun parallels. He's like, yes. A, only I can do it. B, no one can help me. Except for the one person that I already trust. Right. And so I liked that setup a lot. And then the time dilation was kind of weird, but I just got us where we needed to go, right? Where we see all of these jumps 4 years in the future. I don't quite get why it was 4 years. I think that's probably just was a choice so that it wouldn't be too many, but it's still enough, right? It's a high school education.
Yes, it is a high school education. I think that, the 4 years thing, you can make an argument because every time he kept failing, and that's how far you can get when you fail. But there were, I guess this was the first of multiple points of where you kind of had to just go with it, you know, and it is purportedly a kid's movie, although really at this point, especially when they introduced the time dilation and then this concept, right? So the concept of, okay, he's jumped 4 years and he's missed 4 years of life. Then he does it again, you know, his best friend's engaged. Then he does it again and now she's pregnant. Then he does it again and they're married with kids. And then he does it again, you know, when he keeps doing, he's missing out on these things of life. And so part of what I found interesting for me when I was thinking about that was, you know, there's pieces of that you have to turn off the brain, and I accepted that. But then there was like, well, these themes seem to be really more like an adult theme, right? Where you would appreciate and recognize, hey, you're passing through time and that you're missing out on all these great things of life. Because I think that's part of what, at least at this point, the movie's partly trying to convey, which is an overall theme of, you know, you need to learn to try to be happy with where you are. But he kept on trying to go effectively somewhere else. He was still stuck on the mission. I'm going to finish the mission. And for him, and he doesn't experience the same growth everyone else does, because even though, you know, the set of failed missions, I think, encompass about 40 years of their life, you know, for him, it's like 10 days, you know, so it's like, you know, give him a couple weeks before he can start to grow and accept things. Right. And so that was the thing that I found interesting, because I was watching this with always in the back of my mind. Okay, wait, so this is the movie Andy loved from Toy Story. And I'm watching it and I'm going like, well, this doesn't feel like a kid's movie right now.
Mm-hmm. But that's what Pixar does, man. Like, you know, that whole beginning from Up, right? They are experts at crafting, and like there are parts in each of the Toy Stories that are like crazy dark and really, really like heady and crazy in all the Toy Stories. So like Pixar has found this way to make a movie that adults can find deep meaning in, that children can watch and be like, I like the space guy. I love the cat. You know, the cat was awesome. Yeah, my son is 11. He was not bothered by it at all. He had no questions about how time dilation works, and he was, you know, not at all weirded out by that element of it. And he, you know, of course, was like, oh, mom's crying at the part where I'm like, he's missing out on all of her big life moments. That's supposed to be his best friend in the whole world. Yes. And of course, you know, I'm sure that we will get into this more deeply later, but I was like, they're having a canonically gay relationship. Yay! Yes. You know? But I think that they just can sprinkle that into the cupcake mix. Yeah. And it makes it work on so many levels. Yeah, well, but then I guess when you talk about that, I mean, might as well, why wait till later? So what did you think? So when you say they're having the canonically gay relationship, so then does that? I mean, obviously there's a part of that where that's just, you know, the progress of the times, because, you know, in Toy Story, they weren't going to have that problem. Like, you know, like Bo Peep wasn't going to, you know, find Barbie, you know, and you know, and they're going to go right off into the sunset. So then is it? I guess then what did that mean for you? Like, what did you think about the fact that they were then doing that? Is that the core, one of the core relationships throughout the movie is them? To me, it was really meaningful. And all of the aspects of the inclusivity of the Buzz Lightyear team, mm-hmm. right? That his partner, the only person he trusts, is his commander, right? Because she ends up being the commander, is a woman character of color, right? Who is also gay. And then, you know, later when we get the rest of the team, they're not, you know, cookie cutter Buzz Lightyear, maverick, white guy, hero types. They're all different and so diverse. And I just really loved it. And I am so excited and encouraged to see that the movies that are being made now for kids and parents to see together, normalizing these types of relationships. Yeah. And I know that there was a lot of controversy regarding it.
Yes, it was
in the real world.
Yes, it's been banned in 14 countries.
Worth it. Yeah. If you want Pixar content,
Yes.
then
That's
you
right.
have to deal with this element of it. So I found it like so exciting and encouraging that, you know, these new generations of Pixar movies are gonna, you know, show and celebrate and normalize all these different ways of being a person.
Yes. No, and it was very normalized because when they brought it up and they, you know, said that he was, what is it, when she first said, yeah, I met her 3 years ago and everything. Because I remember because, you know, I'm still old enough that when I hear that in a cartoon, I'm like, her? You know, and then it's like, oh, yeah. And then as it goes on, it's normalized, you don't think anything of it. And it's like, well, yes, I've evolved enough as a person that it's like, yeah, this is all fine, you know, but it still was, it's new to have it in a cartoon, you know, because a lot of times that's not how cartoons are. Cartoons are usually very cookie cutter, traditional, traditional old school relationships of all sorts, and more people like Buzz Lightyear, you know, more cocky space rangers. So. And
it's like Disney has had like a history of like not necessarily being the best at like, you know, oh, we're giving you a gay character. They're a background thing that's happening over there that no one will acknowledge the fact. But that you didn't know that character's. Yeah, there you go. That's
they've been gay the whole time. You should pay more attention.
You didn't know, and it's like, well, you know, for like my daughter, especially, like it is so meaningful to see those kinds of relationships, not only on the screen, but in your Disney, you know, in your wholesome family product.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so as we left off, it's been 40 years. He's failed a whole bunch, and now his best friend is dead. Right. So so Alicia died. Alicia died. Left a wonderful message to him with her young Izzy granddaughter in it as well and everything. And it was a very sad moment looking at the picture. They did the last Infinity and beyond. You know, it was sad and touching and heartbreaking. And now the new Commander Burnside wants to build a laser shield and laser shield and live there, right? And they say, we're just going to make do with what we've got. You know, again, really going back into the theme of, hey, let's just make do with what we got. We didn't plan to be here, but, you know, let's make this work. And then he wants to do laser shield, which honestly, I would argue was a sensible choice. You know, given the planet they're on, a laser shield seems to be kind of something to do. But Buzz is like, no, I'm going to then finish this mission. And so he then has to steal his plane back again because he's been grounded, you know, a lot like Top Gun, where they were grounded, and he had to steal a plane in order to prove that the mission could be done. And so,
because his cat solved the map,
yes.
You have to talk about the cat.
Let's talk about the therapy cat. So then the therapy cat I thought was an interesting choice because at first clearly Buzz doesn't want anything to do with the therapy cat, and the therapy cat's just going to be a computer program that figures things out. But over time and as it went on, it's like the cat became almost like a partner, right? And not just a pet. And so I found that I, over time, like Buzz, begrudgingly started to fall in love with Socks the cat.
I love Socks the cat. I deeply love Socks the cat. I love the cat. He's such a fun character. Like, I want them to make a toy where you like click him and his eyes turn into flashlights and his tail has a USB charger. And I want all of that. The most unbelievable part of the whole thing to me was when they ground him. They say, like, no more for you. We're going laser shield. You're not a space ranger anymore. They're gonna come decommission the cat?
Yes. Yeah. They're gonna put the cat down.
On Earth. There's no way that two people would just knock. We're here to decommission your cat.
Well,
no, there's no universe in which they would like be so callous and cruel.
Well, they feel that the cat is no longer needed because he doesn't need to have therapy for his mission. I think they view the cat as just what he needs to psychologically get through to the mission, not necessarily anything about him either as a person to reintegrate into society, or you know, and then also, you know, they may have noticed, hey, this cat is working on this hyperspace fuel problem here for the past 40 years. And so since we no longer want that to get solved, let's put the cat down. And also, they don't think of the cat as a cat. It's just a machine.
Then make it look like a pet rock. Make it a therapy pet rock. Don't make it a cat.
Okay, well, I guess
You can't come decommission a cat. No.
Well, well, they did not succeed. Buzz did escape with his cat, and then they stole it.
He saved the cat.
Yes, and it really was his hero moment of saving the cat. Yeah, but then they go and they finally, the cat figures out the formula and also has tranquilizer darts, which I thought was great. And that
I laughed. So I love the
exactly. Yeah, I loved that, and also I loved how Buzz figured out really quickly. Well, the only reason for that cat to have one was to use it on him. So they've stolen the plane, and then they go in and make the mission. Once they get to hyperspeed, they now have a greater effect of the time dilation, and now they come back 22 years later. And when they come back 22 years later, they meet the planets. The planets they are successful. Yeah, and they meet the planets. I don't know what they were calling themselves. What Izzy and the colony's defense forces. That's right.
The junior colony's defense forces, right? That's which is made up of Izzy Hawthorne, who is Alicia's now adult granddaughter, Mo Morrison, who's a naive recruit, and then Darby Steele, who is an elderly paroled convict. And he initially meets them thinking, oh, okay, well then you guys are part of the defense force. He learns that they've been attacked by Emperor Zurg, and that he feels that these are the people that are trying to help defend the planet. So I guess before getting into the beats of what they mentioned there, so what did you think of the colony's defense forces, and did you have an early favorite that that got overtaken later, or did you always love one from the beginning? I was so excited to meet them. I loved how funny and goofy they were. Like, I love Taika Waititi voicing absolutely anything.
Yes, he's great.
So I loved his character, who was like so accident prone and so not good at anything. But then I was like, oh no, I love the parolee and that she was older and so grumpy. But of course I loved Izzy and just her enthusiasm and her like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna save the day. Like, let's get out there and do our best, everyone. I was just like, I love the cat. I love Izzy. I'm on board for this movie 100%.
So one thing that about the Defense Force is that I noticed early on. So I live in Portland, Oregon. And it turns out, and this is what I learned after this, Angus MacLean, who was the director, grew up in Portland, Oregon. The reason why I recognize this is that the names of these characters, so there's Commander Burnside, and then there's Izzy Hawthorne, Mo Morrison, and Darby Steele. Those last names are all bridges in Portland. They're they're all bridges in downtown Portland. They're actually the most prominent bridges. Those are the most prominent: Steele, Morrison, Hawthorne, Burnside. Yeah, I was looking for someone with last name Fremont. There was one of the Space Rangers that had Selwood, which is a different bridge in Portland, but there was no Fremont, and that would be the only other major bridge in Portland that they didn't cover. But yeah.
He hates that bridge. He's not into that bridge. He must
hate that one, which I get it. It's kind of freaky when you're driving over it a few times. I'm not going to lie there. But yeah, so that was like because I'm watching that going like, why, why were these names all familiar to me? And it dawned on me that, these are all bridges. And so I thought that was just an interesting thing of where it's like, so that little piece was made only for people that lived in Portland. Because if you didn't, these names would not mean anything to you in a group. But yeah,
that's so neat. Yeah. I love it.
But I found that of the initial on the initial colony defense force, I was not a fan of Mo. His clumsiness and I mean, and it's not a fan in a weird way. Like at the end of the day, they're all great characters, and you kind of grow to love them all. But his clumsiness and everything of it was like, I think I was still in Buzz mode where I was like, hey, we're trying to complete this mission. Will you stop triggering this defense mechanism, shooting the wrong thing, the arrow of that and everything, stop getting us in trouble when we're not in trouble. Don't set off the car alarm. That is the one thing that can alert everybody to us and everything, So I found that over time, I found that my journey with him was similar to Buzz's, where it was at first I was like, you need to just find out where you can drop Mo off so you guys can be fine.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you start to see, oh, okay, well, maybe he will have some utility and value, and he can be a great character too. But yeah.
Well, and he didn't want to be there. Like he didn't want to be there either. Yeah. Like his thing was like, I thought this was going to be a fun like boot camp workout, and it's not that. Yeah, so exactly. I'm all for not doing this anymore. Yeah. It seemed like nobody really wanted to be part of this team except for Izzy, because she wanted to be a space ranger eventually. Except for the going into space part.
Right, which was an interesting twist. It's the first word in Space Ranger, so you would think that space would be a part of it. Although when she does categorize all of her fears of space, I was like, yeah, all of that is valid. Mm-hmm. So I get that, but then it's like then I would not want to be a Space Ranger. So she was like Rooster, who had concerns about flying, but then followed into her grandfather's footsteps. So let's bring this around to Top Gun as much as we can.
They weren't this crack shot team of like the best of the best. They weren't the Top Gun recruits. These were like the people you would never want to end up. This is the police squad version, right? Where they all have like, they can't do it,
I had not thought of them as the police squad version, but yes, that is absolutely correct.
And I love that. I loved that journey for Buzz where it's like, yeah, you're so used to being the best of the best and elite and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You got to deal with the hand you're dealt, friend. And this is a pretty wonky hand.
It is. I think again, it enters into beating over the head with what I thought was like the theme of being, be happy with where you are, right? That, honestly, this part is where I think that the movie really starts to turn into being more like a kid's movie. They do the familiar beats, right? That you have this ragtag group that starts off as a defense force where they can't really do anything. Then they're forced to cooperate because first they can't do anything. Buzz is always trying to save them or get away from them. And then they're forced to cooperate in order to, get out of a different jam, help building them a team. And then Buzz realizes after they save them that, hey, they actually are valuable people, Yeah. And so that all that stuff felt very kid movie beat to me. And also too, especially what the different things they did, where they created the different traps of like the invisible gear. Well, no, it wasn't called invisible gear. It was invisible
stealth mode.
Yes, it was a stealth mode.
I think it was a stealth mode or something similar.
Yeah, to that. And so that he didn't bother to tell them that had a timer because they were playing around instead of actually completing the mission, and doing that, or like I did not understand, but I went with because I thought it was good for the plot. The force fields on the ceiling, the little laser force fields that then they would join together and cram them all together. Yes, little cones that would join them together, and that was really the first time where they had to cooperate, right? Because Buzz wanted to break them up into different groups, and they had to cooperate and come together. And so that was, I think, not only part of Buzz's journey, but also part of the journey of them as a team to coalesce into something that could be, meaningful and useful for later on. But here, and so anyway, so then they go and they find the little stick they needed for the hyperdrive, right? And then and that's where they have in their crashing, the other action beat within that crashing sequence like that, and then the team finally saves Buzz, and then Zurg, who it was foreshadowed knows who Buzz is, then captures Buzz, and then it turns out Zurg is old Buzz. And yes. And so
I was not expecting that.
I was not either. I was expecting Zurg to be like, a different version of Alicia or something like that, right? But for it to be old Buzz.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be Featheringtonbergster or whatever, because he was like, he had such a memorable like name and then he disappeared. I was like, oh, maybe it's him or maybe it's Burnside. But yeah, I was not expecting old Buzz.
Yes. And now they've introduced a multiverse. Which was the one thing about it that I was like, okay, well, again, let's just go with this. But I don't know that whether or not it was I just felt I had to kind of go with the old Buzz thing. I did notice though that I had a little bit of a trepidation there with that because that seemed to be honestly too ham-fisted. I honestly think it almost been better had Zurg just been some Zurg, right? Like he doesn't need to be old Buzz who went off in a different timeline horizon and then came back in that time, because it introduced to me too many points for me to stop and think about things, right? Because it's like, okay, so if he went back in time, but he's from a different time, how come when he came back in time, he came back to this time?
It worked for me though, because like I was more there for like the emotional journey of like, this is the Buzz that never had to like do that whole teamwork moment with some people he probably wouldn't have chosen for his team. And so this Buzz, and they have that whole conversation about like, he's in it. He came back to that time, I think, because he wanted to save Hawthorne from what he saw as an unworthy life.
Yes.
Of not being a space ranger and not completing the mission. Whereas this Buzz got to learn that even though it wasn't the life they would have chosen or thought they wanted, it was a worthy life. And, he wants to erase the 40 or however many years it was that she had as a wife and a mother and a person, because to him, it's like, if you're not the most important person in the whole world, then you're nobody.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I think he's the most important person in the galaxy. Like, I don't think he limits himself to the world.
Even more than in this world, that world, all the world.
Yes.
So yeah, I was willing to like not look too closely at the seams of how much like it making sense, because I was like, oh my god, yeah, it's like this Buzz has been on a different journey, and is only really concerned about and the other theme was like correcting the mistake, right? He made a mistake. He's got to correct the mistake because he can't have a mistake on his conscience or his record or whatever. He just can't be a person who ever made a mistake. And then that ties into the Mo character, who's like always making mistakes, can't stop making mistakes. And little baby Hawthorne, Izzy keeps saying it's just a mistake. Like, it was just a mistake. We all make mistakes. And Buzz is like, no, I have to fix the mistake. So I bought into it for that reason, that he was like, got to fix the mistake, got to finish the mission, got to be the most important person in the whole world, galaxy, universe.
Yes, most important person. Yeah, no, I did also. Once I turned my brain back off and didn't worry too much about the whole time jumping thing. I think that they did a good job of making both Buzzes make sense. It does make sense. Like in the old Buzz, he came back from the 22-year run of being successful in hyperspace and immediately jumped back off planet. So he did not experience anything with any of the people that were there other than what we saw in the first set. And so his entire perspective would still be like, oh, these people need to be saved from this horrible life they must have lived on this planet. And so, there's an aspect of that where it's like, well, you're not really all the way the bad guy there. Now, when you decide to invade with a bunch of robots, that might make you a bit of the bad guy there. And that was like a little bit of a turn where I was like, I'm not sure why you would, invade with a bunch of robots, but that can only say, turns out Buzzurg, because they can't say Buzz. And so they just say Zurg. But as the movie goes on, you can tell they're saying Buzzurg, to then tell you, hey, it's Buzz. But to invade with that is a bit of an odd choice, but still, he's still trying to be the hero. He is still trying to save them from this horrible life and existence that they had. And if he can go far enough back in time, he can make it where it never happened and everybody could live happily ever after. So then there's your argument for like all villains, isn't Zurg the hero of his own story?
Yeah, he thinks so. Exactly. And there's got to be a multiverse where it worked, right?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. Yeah. So, but then with, but also too, this conflict is definitely the pivot point and the tipping point of Buzz having his greater amount of growth, right? Where he does realize that their life was worth something as it was, and then that's the whole reason he refuses to team up with Zurg to then go and give him the hyperspace fuel so he could go further back in time because he ran out.
Yeah. He broke it.
Excuse me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he like sat on it or something.
This is what I gathered from that. He had enough hyperspace fuel to go back, because they explained this part, I think. He could go back, like, I don't know, 40 or 50 years, whatever amount of time it was. He could go back a certain amount of time, but then his fuel ran out. And that he needed Buzz's fuel from his, that would be fresh fuel, to then go back further. And so that's why he needed to get the pilot, because I think when Buzz got there, he took the fuel off the ship. Right. When he landed, he took it off. And so that's why he needed Buzz. Because otherwise, once they got the ship, he would have had the fuel he needed. He could have just gone on. But I think Buzz took it off. Yeah. So then there was that. But then, and then that sets up the big action piece at the end where Izzy is going to overcome her fear of space and, launch from one end to the other to help save Buzz from in the big fight scene and everything, which I thought was...
And to save the cat. She was saving the cat. The beautiful, beloved cat who gets saved. She overcomes her fear so she can grab him so he doesn't float away into space.
Yes, because he was going. Yeah, yes. No. And they, and honestly, too, I felt that scene was so well done, not only in that you're kind of with her with a little bit of fear to jump across it first, but you think, oh yeah, go ahead and jump, you'll be safe. So she has a little trepidation, she goes, and then when the ship moves, you are then like, oh yeah, you're just going to go off into space, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, how are they going to save her? And then the cat's flying around, and yeah, that was very, very, well played, I thought.
Yes. Yeah, no, it was very well done. And I did, I also enjoyed as far as how things are being well done in this movie as a whole is, that ending action sequence, the not only with the way the animation did with the explosions and everything, it seemed, at least for me anyway, it seemed slightly realistic. It was animated, but it was done in a very, really well, right? Where it seemed like even in my, at least for in the theater experience from my eyes, it was like, wow, this seems like because the animation seems kind of older early on, which I thought was a stylistic choice to keep it closer to kind of how the old Toy Story was. And then at the end...
Or to how it would be if it was a movie that came out in 1995.
Yes, I think that the movie was being made as if it was originally as if it was a 1995 movie, but then the end, the production value to me just seemed to really kind of ramp up to where things looked a lot more realistic, and it was a much more, the ending sequence seemed more modern and much more like, engaging in the harrowing dangers of the different people. Also showing the other crew members that they were able, the other crew members able to then do things to help and assist Buzz, and they could kind of work together as a team to accomplish the task. And of course, like all good movies, blow up the bad guy at the end.
Yay!
Exactly. And then we will all live happily ever after. But yeah, no, I did really find that part of the film that I enjoyed what they were doing with that after they had, taken me through this emotional journey of, hey, I need to learn to accept my situation.
Yeah. Life is what happens when you're busy finishing the mission, right?
Exactly. It was interesting to me to talk about this movie right now, because it was a really, at least for my opinion, well done, a well done basic kids movie, right? So then I guess then why don't we just jump to that? So then, given the bar you set for earlier of this movie and your expectations you have, did this movie meet your expectations, exceed your expectations? Was it below your expectations?
It exceeded my expectations a bunch, because I was just expecting, to have a cute time at the movies. I like most kids' movies, I enjoy taking my kids to see them, but then I don't feel like, a deep attachment to them or anything. I think Lightyear really exceeded my expectations in that the about, right, the deeper about of this fun movie with space chases and robot cats had so much great meaning that I think kids and families will just absorb while they're enjoying the fun of it and laughing along, you know? So it really exceeded my expectations just on all of those levels, you know, including the characters of different colors, different ethnicities. You got me, you know, including the LGBT characters. Yes, please. Including the themes of like, you know, living the life that you have and being worthwhile, even if you're not the hotshot you always thought you were, you know, building a team of people who aren't all exactly like you. Even Mo, like learning that he could be capable, even though he seemed to have this message constantly coming from himself and around him that he is not capable. You know, it worked on so many levels for me in such a positive way that I thought it really exceeded my expectations. I loved it. And I love the cat so much. I want a little robot cat.
Yeah, I want the cat too, if it can have also the laser eye setting where it does a laser and then it chases its own eyes. You know, chases the laser in his eyes. That was great.
Oh my gosh, and I want one that has a blowtorch in it. Like, I realize that won't be for kids, but come on, Disney. Sometimes I need to blowtorch things. Why can't it be a cat?
There you go. And yes, that would not be for kids. You imagine all the lawyer's warnings that would come with the toy that had that ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I think that for me, did it meet? You know, I think it met my expectations. It was a really great. I thought it was a really good movie. I think that it was different than what I was expecting. You know, because I think for me, I really was expecting, you know, the adventures of Buzz Lightyear as Galactic Space Ranger. You know, and this movie was more than that. You know, and more than that in a way that, at least for me, it took me by surprise because I was not expecting it, but you are absolutely right. Pixar does like similarly to the beginning of Up, it gives you a lot of adult themes in a very mature movie, and then, you know, hit you with some, you know, some battle sequences or something that'll be, you know, visually entertaining for kids. And this movie did that really in a couple ways. All the themes in the early on, and then even you know, not only the themes early on with the life and the passage of time there's also the themes of, you know, with Buzz and growing, which are the obvious ones. But then there's even that one thing that I found as an unexpected surprise that actually spurred a conversation with my kids. I took my kids to this. My boys are 16 and 13, so they were far too cool for this, right? They were like, no, we don't want it. And then they had to explain to me that they weren't old enough to grow up on Toy Story because Toy Story came out in the 90s and they weren't alive yet, and that this wasn't the movie of their youth and everything. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. We're going to see this and check it out. And part of it that sort of spurred the conversation was about Izzy, right? And her belief in trying to meet an expectation of her grandmother, right? And that it isn't that there are two different kinds of pressures you can have, right? There is the, you know, because part of that didn't make sense to them for verse was like, well, the grandmother wasn't trying to make her be a space ranger or something like that, right? That not all pressure is external, where someone is like, hey, you need to be what I was, you know, and that really Izzy's anxiety or pressure she was feeling was to live up to the idea of what she thought her grandmother was. Because as far as I'm following the story, her grandmother would have died when she was about 4 or 5, so she probably wouldn't have had any meaningful memories of her. She had only this idea of the person she'd been told about, and that a lot of her pressure and anxiety was coming from what she thought this person was, and how that also can be a method or a mechanism to shape not only what type of person you are, but then also some of the decisions you make and what direction you try to take your life in and go in. And that really, in effect, Izzy needed Buzz to kind of help her get over the hump or create the experience she needed to be able to unlock her ability to meet, you know, really her own expectations or try to live up to what she thought a space ranger should be, not the least of which is going to space.
Ocean, are we back to Top Gun again? Where Izzy is Rooster living up to the Goose,
living up to Goose
to be like Goose? Yeah.
Yes. We know what, we're always back to Top Gun. Honestly, if they had stolen an old spaceship to stop Zurg, that would have been even better. Then we could have had.
They kind of did though, didn't they? Because he had his fancy one, but then they also had to. They sort of stole one.
Oh,
right, from the junior base station.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. They did. Yeah, I guess they did. I guess they kind of did steal an older one. Yeah, so there you go. So there's that as well. But then, yeah. But at the end though, now in this where we diverge from Top Gun, he decides that when they accept him and they're going to reconstitute the Space Ranger program, he then chooses his crew there, his motley crew, as his first group that he is going to train to move forward and do it. And so. Yeah, so that way they stay together and do that. Although I did think that, you can train more than 4 people, right? Like you could have added.
Yeah, you definitely can. Well, and there was a part of me also that I think really responded to it in a way of being like, so much of the like heroes that we see and the teams of heroes that we see are all these infinitely capable, hotshot white men who are out there, being the Top Gun crew, and it's Iceman versus Maverick, and they're only varying shades of difference in their haircuts, but they're basically all the same. And you have to like show people that the team that you never expected can be the team that you truly need. And, like I relate that to the improv world in a lot of ways, because so often, the selections are made based on, oh, well, you're just like me and your humor is like mine and your skills are like mine, so we should be a team, as opposed to your skills are like mine, so I don't need 2 of me. Let me choose somebody who has a difference of life experience, an older person, difference of enthusiasm, a younger person, a difference of capability, someone who's still learning. And to see that be the message in a movie, like, I love a ragtag team. Show me a ragtag team. Like, give me a Top Gun 3 where he has to train more people and they're all terrible because Top Gun floated away or something.
So you want I just really liked it. Gun. Or
I do. I want. Let's try to be like let's see how we got there or whatever, and I like that about the new Top Gun too, that there was at least 2 people there who or maybe like were there like 4 people there maybe who weren't exactly cookie cutter Maverick, Iceman, Goose, Rooster, Hangman, all the same guy.
Yes, there were some differences there, although I also found I honestly just thought of this too when you were mentioning the different, like, I want an elderly woman with a different level of experience, and I'm like, with Darby Steele, since they were marooned on this planet for 40 years, and she was a paroled convict, right? What was the justice system like on this planet? Like, what did she have to do?
Right? I don't know. And they reveal that she stole a starship, or she stole a cruiser or something. And then Buzz is like, oh, maybe we're not so different.
Yeah.
You and I.
Well,
I
thought it was just, she stole a starship, and then so she got, what did they do with her and everything? So it made me start thinking, hey, in the next Lightyear, they should really explore the penal colony. It can be like Law and Order. Like, and then they'll explain to you, this is what happened to Darby Steele. So.
Yes, Law and Order, Toy Story.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so they should have themes, but okay. So what rating would you give this movie out of a 1 to 5 stars? So since we stick with the letterbox theme of rating movies, what would your letterbox rating be?
I would give this all the stars. I would give it all the 5 stars, and I would give it the heart. I think this is a 5-star movie. It's fun. It's funny. It's kids like it. Adults like it. You're getting all of this premium inclusion content. And so 5 stars, heart. I'm telling everyone, go see Lightyear.
Wow. That is impressive. That is an amazing movie. Yeah, I think that while I did really enjoy this movie, I think that I might be a little bit jaded now that I have older kids. And so I usually, I basically, to me, I rated it 4 stars. I thought it was I thought it was better. It's interesting too, when I said about it meeting my expectations, it probably did actually exceed it. Now that I'm thinking about it more, it was better than I thought it would be as far as story, as far as themes that was being delivered, and as far as, really showing growth in the character, right? Because Buzz Lightyear, the toy, grows, right? But he's still a toy, so it's like there's like a little bit of expectations. Whereas now you're seeing that Buzz Lightyear, the man, is growing a different way, even though the man is technically a fictional character in a movie, but So
the man is also a character, but the toy is a toy that also has his own personality, even though he's a toy. And the character from the animated series is another third thing.
I've never seen the animated series. So I don't know what the third, what that one is. But yeah, like, is it in the animated series? Isn't it supposed to be Buzz?
Yeah, in the animated series, it is, and I thought it was like in keeping of how Disney would really do it. The movie would come out, and then they would do an animated series that would just be on TV for the kids who want more Buzz Lightyear, and that's what it was. It was the Adventures of Buzz Lightyear, the character of Star Command, going on space missions in the galactic, and fighting Zurg in space, and his adventures, so it was like this, this is not the toy having fun with, Andy in Andy's world. This was the character, an animated character of Buzz Lightyear, which is why it's like, okay, so the actor in the movie is the Chris Evans one. The actor the character in the cartoon is Patrick Warburton, but the toy, is Tim Allen.
Okay. Right? Got it.
Makes perfect sense.
Totally sense. Yes. So the actor or the character grew in the movie. So anyway, as I was saying, it was better. The growth that they showed in yes, all the diversity of the different types of characters, and the growth that the main character, our main protagonist goes throughout the movie does. It was much better than I expected it to be. And so this was a really good movie. I would recommend anyone that hasn't seen it to definitely go see.
You don't have to have seen Toy Story, right? This isn't canonically Toy Story 5. This is a whole other thing. It's its whole own thing. Like, you don't have to be steeped in the tea of the Toy Story universe to get it.
That's great. Yeah.
I did see that Disneyland has now a human Buzz.
A human Buzz?
So they have...
You mean like a person that's dressing around in the Buzz Lightyear uniform?
So there's Buzz the toy, right? The character who has a plastic face.
Okay.
Yes. You know what I mean? And he's huge, and he's Buzz the toy. Now they have a human Buzz who is Buzz Lightyear, right? It's the Lightyear one. So it's a person with their face out. It's not a plastic face. It's a human face. And he's in the, not the Star Command uniform, but the uniform that he wears throughout most of this movie that's gray. And it looks more like an actual NASA uniform. So you can see Toy Buzz and get your picture taken with Toy Buzz. Or you can get your picture taken with Buzz Lightyear, the human being.
That's wow. Okay. Yeah, that would be. I wonder, like, would one of them be? Yeah, weird. Would one of them be like scary than the other, or like because the one has a plastic face and one has a real face? Like, I wonder if kids would find one scary and the other one not, or like I don't know.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They showed Disneyland Reels or whatever, showed the actor that they had playing Buzz. And I was just like, A, he doesn't look like Chris Evans, but B, he doesn't look like the cartoon. Because the whole thing of the cartoon is that chin, right? Oh,
yeah. The chin is, yes.
Either put a prosthetic chin on this cat or cast someone with a big chin dimple.
Exactly. Because it's not a cleft chin. It's just a dimple in the chin.
It's like a Kirk Douglas situation. right? Is he the guy, Spartacus?
Yes, it's Kirk Douglas.
He had the big old shin dimple.
Yeah, yes, I guess he does. It's not exactly a cleft.
This has been Getting Sidetracked with Krissy and Ocean.
Thank you, because that is like, I think you're blowing my mind a little bit there with the with the idea of
it's a little bit of a noodle baker, right?
It really is. It really is, and an interesting place where we should end this thing. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Krissy Lenz, for joining me tonight to talk about Lightyear in the most interesting tangential way possible. So, tell us what is coming up next for you in your podcast, comedian, being wonderful life.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, please listen to the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast. I would just love for you to hop over there and give that a listen. Ocean was our most recent guest on the Terminator episode.
Yes.
And we're kind of like doing an unintentional Arnold Schwarzenegger thing because we're doing Predator.
Oh.
Predator and then Flight of the Navigator. Do you not know Flight of the Navigator?
No, I don't know Flight of the Navigator. I was like going like, so, and who stars Flight of the Navigator?
And like, there's no one really super famous in it. Like, I guess Pee Wee Herman is probably the most famous person. He just does a voice in it. Paul Rubens does a voice. But it's about a kid who, much like Buzz Lightyear, finds a spaceship and then travels through time and ends up accidentally going back to a world in which he hasn't aged, but his family is all old.
Okay. This is the first. I now have to look up what that movie is. This is the first I've heard of that.
I think it's good, but I also haven't watched it since I was a child, so maybe it's not. But I think it is.
Well, I'm sure we will hear all about it. Okay. Coming up next for us on the film board is Bullet Train.
Talk to me.
I am ready. You are getting the new and improved me. Because if you put peace out in the world, you get peace back.
I think you might be forgetting what you do for a living. Take the gun.
Every job I do, somebody dies. I'm not that guy anymore.
Some conflicts require a gun.
Hey, this is nice. Okay, what am I snatching and or grabbing?
A briefcase. You said you wanted simple for your first job back. Doesn't get simpler.
You stabbed me? I will ruin your life the way you ruin mine. Dude, I don't even know you. There's nothing simple about this job.
Something else going on here.
Yeah, I'm not the only one on this train looking for this case.
Lemon, where's the briefcase?
Oh, it's that shit. It was just there.
We are right on schedule.
Everything that's ever happened to you
This is gonna sting, bitch!
has led you here. Fate.
That's a shit deal.
Oh, no, thank you.
You know what? Do you have anything sparkling? That's the one. Thank you. Domo arigato. You sure you want to talk this out?
Not particularly, no.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
To infinity and beyond.